to 2219 Raw. I am Travis Singleton. You're likely used to seeing me behind the camera with my photography. Staying behind the camera but switching roles, I have started a new video project. Raw is where I sit down and talk with local people from in and around Dundas and present you with a short video on their life. Hopefully you come away learning a little bit more about the interesting people around you. When I moved to Dundas in 2014, the first person I met was Susan. Susan opened her first bakery over 20 years ago in 1997. Being a single mother of 4 children, she turned to baking to make extra Christmas money. Due to popular demand, she turned her once-a-year skill into a thriving local business. In this first episode of Raw, join me while I sit down and talk with local baker Susan Preston. So I think I want to start with, you are, as I just said, Susan Preston is the bakery. Where did you start the first bakery? Or even before the first bakery? What got you into baking and wanting to have a bakery?
I had 4 kids. I didn't have very much money. And a friend of mine came to me and said she wanted to know how she could make some fast money for Christmas. And I said, I don't know. She said, well, you always seem to be able to come up with something. I said, well, how about baking some goodies and selling them? She said, well, I'm not doing that. It's too much work. So then a week later, I realized I had $100 to spend for 4 kids for Christmas. And I thought, well, I told her how to do it. Why don't I do it? So my sister and I put our money together, went to Costco, bought $100 worth of stuff, had it sitting in the kitchen of my kitchen, and we looked at each other and thought, are we nuts? We just spent our last $100 on baked stuff, or flour and sugar. We put flyers up in a couple of the hairdressers in town, and for $10 we sold a box of 36 goodies. So we did a bunch of squares and different Christmas cookies and everything, and we wrapped them up in red cellophane and sold them. The first day that the flyers went up, we made $100 back, and it just went from there. So we just did it at Christmas time for 3 years. But I had 2 other jobs. I was selling real estate at the time, and I was working for a used car dealer as well. So needless to say, I didn't sleep much. And Sherry would bake during the day. I would come home, bake, and then I did all the wrapping and assembling, and then delivering them the next day. And I went to the car auctions in Toronto, sold all kinds of boxes of cookies to all those guys. So I had to deliver them all there. Some of them got shipped to Calgary, shipped them all over. Did that for 3 years. People wanted us to do it after Christmas, but there's no way we couldn't do all those different kinds of cookies and have them all fresh.
Yep.
When you only got an order once in a while. So we didn't do that. And then after 3 years, I said, I can't do this anymore. I slept for 2 hours before Christmas, and I said, I can't do it. So I said, we either have to quit, start a store, or hire somebody. Well, we didn't make enough money to hire somebody. And Sherry's hairdresser was closing, and it was the first store we had, which is where the samosa place is now. And it was 433 square feet. I didn't know anything about running a store, running a bakery, or anything. But we jumped in with both feet. We figured we could cover the rent. If nothing else, we could cover the rent. I went and talked to a fellow from Robin Hood down in Toronto. He was fabulous. He gave me all kinds of hints and stuff. And then he said the smallest store that you can have is 800 square feet. And I said, this store is only 400. He said, well, you can't do it. And I said, well, we've already rented it, so I guess we're going to have to. And we did. We did for 5 years we were there. And we wanted to move a number of times, and it was just too much work to move. It was too expensive to move. My sister dropped out after a month. It was just too much. She said, I can't do this with 4 kids at home, and her kids were a little bit younger. And it was a 24-hour job. You were working all the time. If we weren't baking, we were serving. And if we weren't doing that, we were going out and buying stuff and looking after the kids and everything else. Was too much. So anyways, after the first 5 years, another place came up for rent, and it was just down the street, and it was forget how many square feet it was, 2,200, I think it was. And I went down and looked at it with a friend of mine on the Good Friday. And I looked at it and I said, well, the first two there was 4 different rooms, and the first 2 rooms were good, but I didn't need the second 2 rooms. And I came back to the store and I thought, oh, it's too much money, it's too big, and it was scary. I came back and my girls were standing shoulder to shoulder and tit to tit and I said, that's it. I can't do this. We got to move to the bigger store. And it just kept on moving from there. Then we had the fire and ended up here.
Yeah, so you moved from what's now the Samosa place to 65 Hat Street. Sorry,
65
King Street, which is now the travel agency.
Travel agency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were there for how long?
5 years. 8 years.
8 years.
8 years.
And almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was 10 years ago in January you had the fire.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that.
Well, the store was old and it had been renovated very many times, and there was wires everywhere. We had a real Christmas tree in the front. Everything was well lit. The store was full of people. It was, I think, the 2nd of January. And one of the girls had gone out and swept up the needles and cleaned up out the front. And she said, she came back and she said, you know, that tree's in great shape. It's not dry or anything. No, hardly any needles or anything. I said, great, but it's coming down today anyways because Christmas is over. And not a half an hour later, somebody screamed fire. And whether the sun came in and hit one of the decorations on the tree and like mirror of some sort and did that, or whether it was wiring, they never discovered what the cause was. But that's where the fire started, was on the tree. And it went up, straight up onto the ceiling, and the ceiling had multi-layers of paint, probably lead-based paint, on the old tin ceiling. And it caught fire, and that was it, and it just spread. And the rest of the store was pine. So I just went up like a Christmas tree.
Really quick. Now, I didn't realize till I watched the CHCH interview from this new location opening we're in now, that you were actually open. There was people in the store when the fire started.
Oh yeah, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. Oh yeah. People dropped their purses, they left everything behind and ran out the front door, and some came through the kitchen out the back door. I went back in. I foolishly went in with the fire extinguisher thinking I could put it out. I got everybody out, and then I went out with a fire extinguisher and sprayed the tree. Never used a fire extinguisher in my life. Sprayed the tree, put the fire out, ran back into the kitchen to get the second fire extinguisher, came back and the tree was engulfed again. So I started again, but I realized that there was no way that I was going to be able to control it. So I tried to get out, and I got to the 3rd room. I went back into the kitchen and then into the 3rd room to get my coat, and by that time the store was full of black, oily soot and smoke. And if anybody's ever been in a fire, you don't have any idea what it's like. It's like putting an oily garbage bag over your head. You can't breathe and you can't see. And all I could do is feel my coat up against the wall and the fur collar on it. And it was nice and soft. And I thought, okay, I can't get out. I don't know where the door is. You lose comprehension. And then one of my girls opened the far back door and screamed my name. I couldn't hear it because it's really loud. It sounds like a train when you're in a fire. I couldn't hear her, but I saw a little bit of light. So I followed the light. And that's how I got out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, it is Dundas. The fire department's around the corner. They were, I assume, fairly quick to be there and put it out. So
somebody called 911. They didn't even get the call. One of my girls went over and banged on the door, and that's how they responded.
Right, because what I remember from the interview, they saved the building. They saved the tenants. There was tenants upstairs. And there was businesses beside, of course. So they stopped it from spreading further, but that didn't help you because now the store is in ruin.
Yeah, oh yeah, the store was completely gone. The building was compromised. The apartments upstairs everything was smoke damaged. The smoke damage next doors because the building was old. There was no fire stoppage like there is in new buildings. And so everybody got smoke right down 2 or 3 doors from me. So, yeah, there was tenants upstairs. There was a big, they had a thing at the Phyllis Kramer organized it. And it was at the community center where they raised money to have me start again and have money for the tenants. There was 2 things at Knox Church, and then there was another one. What was the other? Oh, there was a thing at St. Paul's where they had a concert and where they raised money. The kids at Central School put money in a pot for me as well.
So the community chipped in.
They sure did.
And as you said with your first story, you kind of jumped in feet first,
Yep.
not really thinking. You also didn't jump out of the proverbial fire either. You kept going.
To a certain extent, I think I jumped in mostly because I had so much support. In retrospect, I probably should have retired at that time. But I didn't know any better, and it was my life.
Yeah, so a little push from the community, a little push from Phyllis, and a
Yep.
bunch of help from everyone. You set up temporary shop in the church basement.
Yep. In St. Paul's. Yeah, I phoned around. The market came into being at that time, and again, people were asking me if I'd go to the market, and I had to bake from a recognized kitchen, a health inspected kitchen. So I phoned all the local churches and areas, and none of them could. Knox was willing to do it, but I couldn't do it with the daycare that was there, and I don't think Baptist Church had a problem, and St. Augustine's said no way. St. James was going to be way too expensive, and St. Paul's was very willing, and so that's where we went. And it worked out perfect. They built me a little cabinet and cupboard for me to keep my stock and everything.
So the church, yeah, and Phyllis kind of pushed you for that, and then you started looking for another place, because obviously you can't...
Started right away looking for another place, but to get that space, it wasn't that easy. And probably because I was a bit of a liability. I don't know. I never got told no, but there just wasn't anything available. There was nothing that was suitable that was available.
Right, and it took you 2 years
Yeah.
to find this place in the
Yeah.
old post office.
Yeah, they came to me sometime before that and asked me if I was interested, and I said sure, but it was kind of out of the center of town, and so I was hesitant because I felt that I wanted to be downtown in the center of town where I was, and there's nothing came up, so I looked at it again, and I fell in love with the walls. I thought the exposed brick and the big windows, I like that.
Yeah, so you've been here now in the post office 8 years.
Yep.
Any regrets on location now?
I would still like to be in the center of town. We're more of a destination than a walk-by, but it's got new wiring.
Yeah,
It's got heating and air conditioning.
Yeah, so 8 years here.
The other store, we had a screen door, and we were right there on the street level with windows, and I had a display in the windows. I always put a Christmas display. I liked the Eatons and Simpsons windows when I was a kid, so I tried to do that with a small amount of my window, and I can't do that here. That's a regret. I'm not right on the street, so that if the mom and the kid are walking past and the kid says, "Mom, I want to go to the bakery," and she says, "Oh, it's up here," and then they're past before they come in, whereas before they couldn't get past. But I handle it.
Yeah, and since we're talking bakery-wise, we'll stick on that theme for now. Future plans?
Future plans?
Yeah.
Retire. As far as the bakery?
I won't ask you when you plan to retire.
I have no idea.
But after the bakery, what do you plan? What do you want to do? What would you like to do?
I don't look that far ahead. I'm lucky to be above the ground at this point in my life. Maybe travel a bit, but I don't really. I'm not one to sit home, so I have to be with people.
You keep busy, of course.
Keep busy, yeah.
So I'll rephrase the question, because I know there's a couple things you seem to do annually. One of them being the July 1st cake.
Yep.
You do that, so I don't know.
Canada Day cake, that's huge. It's I've always wanted to be in the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest cake, and they've never contacted me. We do a pretty big cake for 700 to 800 people in the park.
How big is that cake?
It's big, 4 by 6 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how long does that kind of preparation goes into cooking a cake that large?
It takes me more than a week. It takes a day and a half to decorate, and it takes more than a week because you can only bake one cake at a time, and then we put them all together on the board, and then assembling it is a day, and then decorating it.
And then unassembling it, get out the door?
It doesn't, oh no, it doesn't get unassembled. I always ask for volunteers, and I always have men come and help us take it out, and they open the front doors, and they're double doors, open it, and they carry it up and out the front door into the back of a pickup truck, straight into the back of a pickup truck.
Cool.
But it's a process.
Yeah, I can imagine. And of course, you are still, since the fire, you're still at the farmers market every Thursday during the summer, which is, I've seen, is usually always busy. Yeah,
June till October.
It takes a lot of your time. And
yeah, it screws up the summer quite a bit because I can't go away on a holiday if I wanted to. But I do it because I enjoy getting out, seeing the people. Here, I'm behind the wall, I'm in the kitchen. If somebody comes in and I know they're here, I can come and visit with them for a few minutes, but I'm always tied to the oven. Whereas at the market, I get to chat with people. See my customers.
It's more your street level storefront.
Yes.
For the summer.
Very much.
Yeah.
And I get to see all the kids. I love the kids, and they all come and they're all excited to get a cookie.
We all love your cookies. So now I want to digress away from the bakery and get into a little more personable stuff. So I want to go way back.
Way back.
And talk about
way back.
a little bit about your parents.
Yeah.
Where were they from?
My dad was from England. I'm not sure exactly where. My brother could tell you exactly. He came here when he was 13, I believe. And my mom was born in Brantford. And he was a jockey. He was only a little tiny guy.
Like a horse jockey.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. He started working. They didn't have very much money. And he left home. I think he maybe got grade 8 if he was lucky. And left home and went to the racetrack and started cleaning stalls. And then he went from there into being an exercise boy. And then from there into being a trainer. And they said, hey, you're little, get up on the horse. And so he started being a jockey. He traveled from here down to Florida and New York. And he was in the Queen's Plate. He was in all kinds of them.
Races,
did really well.
Races everywhere. Cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
And then you came along. How many siblings were before you?
None. I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
I broke the ice for them all.
Yeah.
There's 3. There's me, my sister who's 5 years younger, and my brother who's 16 years younger than me.
And they obviously have kids.
My sister has 4. My brother lives in Thailand. He doesn't have any.
And you have kids, of course.
I have 4.
You have 4, I believe 3 girls and a boy.
Yep.
Yep. And they all have, not all of them, but they have kids too, so you have grandkids, we know that. You as a single mother raising 4 kids.
I spent a good portion of my life doing that. So yes, I was a single mom for a long time. My oldest one went off to university, and so then I had the 3 at home, but I still had Kim. I was responsible for Kim as well. But yeah, it was tough. I can't say it wasn't tough. There was lots of times when you made stone soup.
Yep.
You robbed Peter to pay Paul. But we did it. And they're all good, strong kids, and they all saw their mom work hard, and they all work hard. And they're all successful, and they're smart, and they're good kids.
I believe your son is in Vancouver.
Yep. My oldest one is an engineer. She's married to an engineer. She lives here in Dundas. She has 2 kids, a boy and a girl. And then my second one is Carrie, who lives in St. George. And she has 4 kids, and the oldest one's going to college. And then my son is the 3rd one, and he has 2 restaurants in Victoria, BC. And then I had the youngest one is Kate, and she's here in town with 2 kids, and she has, she's a landscape architect, married to a landscape architect. So they've all done well.
And no one stepped into the bakery role?
No. Well, Carrie comes and helps decorate once in a while. My grandson has definitely stepped in. He comes every Saturday, and he he helps in the kitchen on Saturdays.
But no definite plans that someone's taking over
No, they're too smart.
as Susan Jr.
No, they're all smart. They've all got careers.
Yeah. Any big plans personally or bakery-wise this coming summer or this coming year, being, you know, we're closing up through the winter 2020, what's in store? The same stuff?
Yeah, same. No big plans. I would hope to be able to go out to Victoria. I was supposed to go last year, didn't get there, so I might be able to go out to Victoria this summer, but again, it's hard to get away with the bakery and then with the market.
Yeah, the farmers markets, and that starts when again?
Middle of June.
Middle of June,
Yeah.
goes till end of October.
So sometime after Easter and before that, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, but that's it. I'm going to start looking after my 2 youngest grandchildren after school, so they don't have to go to after school care. Do that. Nope, no big plans.
And how old are they?
The youngest one just turned 5, and the next one is 7. He'll be 8.
So you can put them to work in the kitchen baking, though.
Yeah, I might. And they wouldn't mind that.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate you taking your time and sitting here and answering these questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I hope I was all right.
Of course.